Okay, with this video, we're going to conclude our section on inequalities by looking at some applications or word problems that involve inequalities. Let's get started. In example 9, a hospital director has determined that the costs of operating one floor of the hospital for an 8-hour shift must never exceed $2,370. Remember, must never exceed means we can be less than that all the way up to including that amount, but we can't go beyond it, so that would be a less than or equal to inequality. An expression for the cost of operating one floor of the hospital is 130N plus 1200, where N is the number of nurses. So what this means is that this expression is based on an estimate of $1,200 in fixed costs. So $1,200 in fixed costs plus $130 per nurse, and we have to make sure that that never exceeds $2,370. Will always be less than or equal to $2,370. Now to solve this, we're going to subtract 1,200 on both sides. And when we do, we have 130 times the number of nurses will equal $1,170. At that point, if we divide both sides by 130, we will end up with, you can plug that into your calculator, to get that X must be, N here rather, must be less than or equal to 9 nurses. Right? So anything less than that will produce an operating cost of less than $2,370 for a particular shift. Let's go on to the next example. In the next example, the company president of Staywell Incorporated wants the monthly profits never to be less than. Never to be less than means that it can equal that amount or it can be greater than that amount, but it can't be less than that amount, so this will be a greater than or equal to inequality. Now he's determined that an expression for monthly profit, so he's determined that an expression for monthly profit is 2,000 N minus $700,000. In the expression, N is the number of exercise machines that are manufactured each month, and the profit on each machine is $2,000. So if we were to multiply $2,000 times the number of machines that are made and sold each month, that will give you the profit on the exercise machines. However, there is a fixed operating cost of $700,000 that has to be subtracted from that profit to get a final profit that must be greater than, or equal to $2,500,000. So once we have that set up, it's pretty straightforward. We're going to solve this the way we have solved all of our inequalities. We're going to add 700,000 to both sides, giving us a total of $3,200,000 on the right side. And what that means is that if you want to make a profit of $2,500,000, you have to sell enough machines, which would be $2,000 per machine times N, to make up not only the $2,500,000 that you want to earn in profits, but to make up the $700,000 in operating costs that you're going to incur. So, when we divide both sides by 2,000, we end up with N has got to be greater than or equal to 1,600 machines. So if they make and sell more than at least 1,600 machines, they will achieve the minimum profit of $2,500,000 per month. Let's go on to the next example. Course average. To pass a course with a B grade, A student must have an average of 80 or greater. A student's grade on 3 tests are 75 plus 83 plus 86. Now we want to solve the inequality. 75 plus 83 plus 86 plus x over 4 is greater than or equal to 80 to find what score the student must get on the next test to get a B average or better. Well, what does this all mean? We're going to add up the existing scores, and there's one more test. We don't know how much the student will get on that test, so we're going to leave that as a variable x. How do we find the average of 4 test scores? We add them up and divide by 4. In order for the student to get a B or greater, then they're going to need to have at least an average of 80 or higher, greater than or equal to 80. So if we were to add together, well, first thing that we're going to do, because we have a fraction here, is to multiply both sides of the inequality by 4. When we do, we're going to cancel 4's on the left, and we'll get 75 plus 83 plus 86 plus x is greater than or equal to not 80, but 4 times 80, which is 320. So basically what that's saying is that in order for the student to have a B average for the course, the sum of all of their test scores has to be greater than 320. Now you could have added the 3 scores first and then multiplied both sides by 4. That would have been okay also. Now when we do add them, we're going to come up with a value of 244. So the student already has 244 points, and they need to exceed 320, including the final score. So we subtract 244 on both sides. When we do, we end up with x has got to be greater than or equal to 76 points, or a score of 76 or higher, in order for them to end the course with a B or higher. Let's go on to the next example. Payment options. Sharon sells very expensive European sports cars. She may choose to receive a $10,000 per month flat payment, or she can get 8% of the total sales as payment for her work. And what we want to do is find out how much money does she have to sell, how much money in vehicles does she have to sell in order for the 8% of total sales to be a better deal for her. So we set up, sorry, this keeps jumping ahead, 0.08 X, so 8 cents on every dollar of sales is basically what that means. We want that to exceed $10,000. Then how many cars do we have to sell, or how much total sales in cars do we have to make? We're going to divide each side by 8, and we end up with, we divide each side by 0.08, and we end up with $125,000 in total sales. In order for the 8% of total sales to wind up being a better deal for her. So let's go on to the next example. Please feel free to stop before we work through it and try it on your own and see, come back, start it up again and see if you're getting the right answer. So the average African elephant weighs 268 pounds at birth. During its first 3 weeks, a baby elephant will usually gain about 4 pounds per day. So we're starting at a weight of 268 pounds, and the elephant is gaining 4 pounds for every day, so 268 plus 4x, and we want that to be greater than or equal to 300. We want to find out how many days it's going to take for the elephant to reach or to exceed 300 pounds. We're simply going to subtract 268 on both sides. And we end up with a 4x is greater than or equal to 32, dividing both sides by 4. X is greater than or equal to 8, and in this case, that would be 8 days. So after 8 days, or by 8 days, the elephant will reach that weight of 300 pounds. Let's go on to the next example. And that will be the final example in this set of applications or word problems involving inequalities. So Rennie is buying a used car that cost $4,500. The deal called for a $600 down payment and payments of $260 monthly. Now he wants to know whether he can pay off the car within 1 year. So if he starts with $600 as a down payment and adds $260 for each month, we want to find out how many months it will take for him to reach $4,500 in payments. So to solve that, we subtract 600 on both sides. That will leave me 3,900 on the right, greater than or equal to 260x on the left. When we divide by 260, we will see that it will take him at least 15 months to pay off the car, so he will not be able to pay it off in 1 year. Or 12 months. And so that's going to do it for this set of word problems. Here, most of the inequalities were already constructed for us. All we had to do was to solve them. But you can see, hopefully you can see, that you could also construct these inequalities yourself and solve them. And that's going to do it for our whole big topic on inequalities. I hope you found this series helpful.